Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So this is been a long time coming. I kind of wanted to be in the right frame of mind to do this review for this epic piece. Sometimes you have to be in the right frame of mind to talk about a certain statue. You don't want to be too tired or too worn out or a little bit jaded. You want to be in a good mood. You want to be in a contemplative mood, for some of these pieces. And also sometimes, I don't know, you start rambling. I tend to have a tendency to ramble, and there are times when you've maybe waited for something for so long that once you finally get it in hand, you don't really know what to say about it anymore because you've wanted it for so long, and it does take a while to kind of get your thoughts in order. So this is Weapon X, Wolverine Weapon X. We call it, it's known by many names. It's also known from people who are in the know, who are like, say, if you want to consider insiders, phase 1. So let me go up and down. I have this in landscape mode, which is great. But one of the downsides of landscape mode, of course, is that it's harder to fit the entire statue in. And if you go back too far, then you sort of lose detail. So I think I'm gonna kind of keep it like this while I talk about the statue. So why is it called Phase 1? Well, it's from a series produced again by the same producer who did the Sentinel series called the Wolverine Chronicles. And the idea behind it is it chronicles sort of the highlights of Wolverine's life and versions from his history, okay? And so phase 1 starts off with the beginning of the legend when he was known as Weapon X and was being experimented upon. And this is sort of like the classic interpretation of him as Weapon X. And so the chronicles begin with phase 1. Phase 2 is when he is sort of the old yellow costume, fighting an old classic villain, Wendigo. So it's Wolverine versus Wendigo. That's what it's known as, or phase 2 of the Wolverine Chronicles. And then phase 3 is him in the modern tiger stripe costume with him battling a sentinel. That's yet to be released. Phase 4 is with him as Old Man Logan battling Maestro, which is looks like an amazing piece. And so it kind of follows him through the arc of his life as he starts with Weapon X and then ends, of course, as an Old Man Logan fighting against the Maestro Hulk. Now recently, they've added a 5th phase, phase 5, based on the comic book, miniseries, Sex and Violence, where Wolverine and Domino team up. And there's been, I think, 1 or 2 Sex and Violences, 1 or 2 Domino Wolverine team ups, but this one promises to be kind of the best one. So I don't know how that's going to fit in with Chronicles, because again, it seems like the arc from Weapon X to Old Man Logan, you've kind of finished things off, but maybe that phase 5 is sort of like a coda to the overall line. I think they maybe should stop, because at that point you can keep going on forever, right? I mean, where's my brown suit Wolverine, for instance? How about Wolverine with Black Widow, or Wolverine with Jubilee? There's an endless, at that point it becomes endless. What about Wolverine and X-23? You can just keep on going and going and going. So I think, me personally, for the sanctity of the line, I feel like Wolverine and Domino, Sex and Violence is a fitting ending to that. But again, if they keep on putting out killer sculpts like this, obviously, they keep going, people keep on buying. But I think from an artistic point of view, I would prefer them to stop after phase 5. In reality, I mean, phase 4 should have been the end of that. And then, you can do Wolverine and Domino, but don't call it phase 5. Just call it, Sex and Violence or something like that. Or else it begins to muddy the waters about what phase even means. What do the Wolverine Chronicles necessarily mean, right? And are you going to have an infinite number of phases? That type of thing, who knows? So enough about the backstory. By the way, all of the phases are sculpted by one man. His name, and I apologize if I can't pronounce it correctly. Again, I don't know how to speak, Spanish. It's Alejandro Perreira Ezcurra, I think is how you pronounce his name. That's his full name. I don't know if he uses Ezcurra a lot, but certainly Alejandro Perreira is what he uses a lot of the time. And he's an amazing sculptor, and he sculpted all of these. We'll go through all of that a little bit later on. But he's the man who sculpted the Wolverine versus Wendigo in phase 2, which at this point in time, I think, without any exaggeration, is sort of like the most expensive and most desired statue, I think, in the world in terms of the hobby. It started off going around 25 to 3,000, and by the time it came out from ownage, painted from ownage, it's now routinely fetching, I think, $6,000, which is just insane. I've heard from a source that one went for 9,000. I mean, if you bought Wendigo for 9,000, that's like some guy buying a Bugatti for like, you know, I don't know, 8 million or 5 million, or like a custom Bugatti for 10 million. At that point, you know, money for these types of buyers is like buying like a drink for us. So that's pretty amazing. I don't think, in my opinion, any statue of this type, a quarter scale, is worth 9,000. That's getting close to 5-figure territory, which is ridiculous. You need to give me like a licensed life size, like, you know, my Han Solo in carbonite, for me to even consider dropping 7. And for 9 for a you know, aftermarket piece, especially when there's so many fantastic Wolverines by, say, Franco and by Alejandro themselves coming out, it just seems insane. So the only somebody who, to them, 9,000 is like $90 would think to drop something like that. And I can't help but think, you know, if that person did that, I would definitely love to sell some of my stuff to him as well. So anyways, there you have it. So my feeling after seeing actually phase 2 in person is I really love maybe phase 1 even a little bit more, and I love phase 2. I still kick myself all the time for not getting it for $2,500 and shipping when I had the chance. But, you know, c'est la vie, that's life, right? What can you do? So this is, again, Weapon X. Now, one of the things to note about this statue is that it's not produced by factory. You know, for instance, phase 2 was you know, cast and then painted by ownage, and then phase 3 cast by ownage and painted by HCT. But for phase 1, these were only sold as kits. It was never ever released as a pre-paint. And so the only way to get one of these is as a kit, and then you have to commission, of course, a private paint master to paint for you. And over the years, I haven't seen that many. I think I've seen less than a dozen for sure. I know John Allred has painted, I think, 1 or 2. I know Art Sizer from Spain has done 1 at least. I know that Carlos Rodriguez, you know, from Spain also has done 1. That's the one that Gem Mint bought. And there's a couple more out there, but I'm starting to run out of names. If you look on YouTube, you look on the Facebook channels, I don't think I've seen more than a dozen of these painted up. So those kits are out there, they're floating around, but it does, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you have to invest money and time, you have to be patient waiting for it to get done. So it's a little bit of a drag, but then, of course, you get a beautiful work of art like this, where a paint master devotes all of his time and energy to making it come to life. And so that's the price, you know, you pay. So every Weapon X, every phase 1 is a unique work of art with a different take and you know, kind of a different style, for lack of a better term, associated with it. So I'm going to get up now while talking. So what is the sort of the story behind this? Well, you know, while Wolverine was being experimented on, obviously he was having the adamantium bonded to him as part of the Weapon X program. They would often, of course, attach, you know, these computers to him to record, you know, data, to also stimulate him or whatnot. And this is the scene that represents him maybe breaking out, or he's still part of the program and he's on a training mission. So a lot of the Weapon X storyline is kind of in this, you know, remote wilderness, I think in Canada or whatever, and, you know, he's stalking through the snow like a wild animal, like a Wolverine actually, and you know, on the hunt. And this is showing him out in the snow. So again, there's various paint-ups. There are paint-ups of versions of the paint-ups of him where he has very little snow, he has no blood, or he's completely clean, and it's like he's pristine, okay? And it's just personal, sort of personal preference, what you want. Now, for me personally, I want him in the snow. I've always imagined him, you know, marching through the snow. The base, obviously, is snow, right? And so that gives you a hint at where he's supposed to be. And I remember seeing this on Facebook. This is, you know, sold to me by Sergio Goncalves from France. And I remember seeing, you know, he showed it off in Facebook, and thinking that this was like the best paint up of this character, of this kit I've ever seen. I loved the effects, and so I'm just so over the moon to actually own the kit that I thought was like the best ever. I mean, how many times does that happen? But you know, it did happen. And so what I love about it is the fact that, I mean, the snow effects to me, I mean, some people, you know, your mileage may vary, maybe you think this is realistic or not, but I love the combination of the blood and the snow. And he, you know, meticulously, you know, puts the snow effects all over the body. And to me, this is what, it's kind of, it gives you the impression of what he would look like basically walking through a blizzard, and how the snow rapidly builds up. It sort of melts, you know, in parts over the steaming, you know, the body, the steaming flesh, for instance, that's warm, and it's just sort of caked on every aspect of the, you know, the helmet, the computer banks, the backpack, his arms, the legs, the feet. They are basically sprinkled with snow. So he had to put snow effects and ice effects across the entire statue, the entire kit, to have that unifying vision. And I find it just magnificent. I really love the fact that, you know, he managed to do it. And, you know, he didn't, like, you think that you run the risk of this thing just kind of flaking off. For instance, one of the issues with the Iceman versus Sentinel is that the bridge, the part you're seeing, is just like this powder, and the powder can come off, and it's kind of annoying when it comes off. But he doesn't do it. You know, the effect he makes with this, if you're, I'm trying to get a close-up view here. I mean, it's on very strong, but it looks like it's just snow that you can just flick off, but it isn't. I mean, you wrap it in tissue paper and you ship it, and none of it came off. So he did, again, an amazing job. I don't know how Eric Pond did it. You know, what sort of references he took. Did he go into did he go skiing himself? Did he take reference pictures? But he did such an amazing job, sort of down to the tiniest little details, showing what snowflakes and icicles might look like, and sort of the glistening wetness. You can actually see here, there's like this illusion of wetness on the flesh. I mean, that's crazy, you know, that he is able to sort of get it to that level of detail. I find the snow effect here completely, utterly believable. Look over here, the snow mingled with the blood, so it's a little bit dirty, it's a little bit caked on. And of course, the snow on the helmet is just stunning. Again, just kind of caking it on there. It looks like clumps of snow. Done very, very, very well, in my opinion. You can even see, bits of it sort of hanging around his facial hair, snarling. By the way, that's a beautifully painted face with teeth, the tongue. It's just fantastic all the way through. So this is just the first thing is the effect of the winter effect, and all of that snow on there, the wetness of it all, like partially melted snow as well that you can see. So all of that beautifully done. I half jokingly say that whenever I see this piece and just kind of take a step back and look at it, it's like I feel a little bit cold myself. Like it really gives you this feeling of how cold it must be out there. You feel a little bit cold. And that's like the greatest compliment I can give to a paint job. Let's take a look at the base. I think the base is very nice. It's not like overwhelming. Again, depending on what you want or what you like, you may want bigger, more complicated bases. But here, it's nice. The base doesn't overwhelm the statue. It's definitely something for him to be on. You can see sort of the glistening effect here. So it's like, I guess, really cold water or melted ice water flowing down. You can see blood splattering on the snow, that he's walking through. So you can see it dripping down, which is a very nice effect. And the blood is very good. I mean, there's areas where the blood is really heavy. Then there's areas where there's just splashes. And again, you're not sure whether this is blood from him or whether it's blood from his prey. More likely a combination of both. I think part of the comic had him killing like a bear or something like that. So yeah, you can definitely use your imagination. Here's more of that amazing snow effect on the feet. Look at the toenails. So this is again a testament to the outstanding sculpt by Alejandro, and then of course Eric giving the paint job it deserves. I like the fact that, by the way, the snow here is very dirty. It's not pristine white. There are versions of this where it's like white. You can see here the name of the sculptor, the date. But this is dirty. This is the sort of snow that you see on the streets of a major city like Chicago or New York after it snowed for a while, before, when the snowmobiles come and drive the snow onto the sides of the road. And again, don't forget, snow like that, and especially when there's people walking, it gets dirty just like this. It gets dirty really quickly. So I do kind of like, again, the fact that this is sort of a dirty gray mixed with mud, mixed with rock. So it's a dirty, snowy hill. I've let it be known my feelings on the Captain Morgan pose. This is an example of a captain. It's like a modified Captain Morgan pose. Again, you can see one leg raised above the other, whereas Captain Morgan would have the leg, for instance, on a barrel or something like that, or on a stool. He's, of course, stalking through the snow drifts over a hill. But this is a typical Captain Morgan pose. And if you're going to give me a Captain Morgan pose, then of course there has to be something about it that has to be remarkable. It has to be phenomenal. And in this case, it is phenomenal. And why is it phenomenal? Well, besides the weather effects that we described, it's just the anatomy. I mean, the anatomy, and then of course, bring the anatomy to life. So here, just kind of look at all the veins, how the veins are just sculpted, and of course, brought on. You can see all the electrodes implanted into him. All of the musculature. Look at the musculature of the legs, the musculature of the thigh. Here, again, on the other end. So you can see, again, the veining work. Alejandro, I think, is very, very good. He's good at everything to some extent, but I think one of his strong points that is like he really knows how to sculpt powerful poses, powerful muscular poses, not muscle that's overwhelming or that's fake, but he knows how to show like someone really flexing. Things popping out, like the Wendigo Wolverine, same thing. He's making that pose, the claws are out, he's straining, and everything's just popping out. And Alejandro just really knows how to make all of that stuff pop. So here you go. Take a look at the abdominal muscles, and then the shorts, beautifully sculpted. You can almost feel like you can touch it, and it feels like cloth, but it's not. All this texturing is all snow. Again, some of the different textures of the belt, the buckle, the straps that's holding the computer in place, the computer themselves, the metal effects, all of that just beautifully done. And then of course, look at the arm musculature, the veins, and then this beautiful mixture of blood and just ice and snow on the forearms. All the blades are smeared in blood, so it looks like he's definitely killed a bear or killed somebody. These are all metal, okay? All metal and individually placed. And then same thing over here. Again, look at the side muscles, the biceps, the triceps, the deltoids, all of this stuff, beautifully sculpted out. Here's the lats on the side again. Just a stunning paint job. And again, the claws on the other side. Here's all of the cables from the computer to the main backpack. Look at the snow caked on the backpack. And then of course, the connections to the helmet itself as well. These wires took a little bit of doing. I didn't know, I couldn't figure out where they went. I had to look at pictures, but now you know. So it goes here and there. A little bit of super glue does help to keep them stable. This one isn't, but the other one I had to just twist a little bit and super glue to the side there just to keep it in place. But again, very, very beautiful. And all of these are custom. So here we have twisted cables, and others it's like a dark black cable. All of that's of course a little bit different. You can see the connectors from the backpack to the back of the helmet. So all of these come off and pop off. And then of course there's the 3 heads. This is the helmet head. This is the classic head. This is the one where you're going to display it like this. This is the classic Weapon X, but it does come with 2 heads. In case you want to mix it up a little bit, it's definitely there for you. And look at the muscles here, just all the tendons just sort of like, stretched out. Pretty amazing. Right over here, you see in the bottom of the veins, you can see the sternocleidomastoids, and then the veins across and the tendons just jutting out with him screaming. So definitely very, very good. You can see the blood across the legs, the chest, all of that. So yeah, I mean, what more is there to say? Look at how amazing this is, just kind of turning him around. So is this the best Weapon X on the market? I mean, again, by far. Just like the Iceman is the best Iceman on the market. I mean, the XM version and whatever there is out there, Kotobukiya and other various kits, like this thing is so far above and beyond any other Weapon X. I can't really even talk about second place, actually. Okay, so this is by far the best. You've seen my unboxing video, so it's also, engineered very brilliantly. Like if you look at this, you have no idea really where the seams go. Everything's beautifully, cunningly hidden. You can't tell where all of that, there's no seam lines to see. And of course, you saw me put it together, you know where it is. If you use a little bit of logic, you can probably figure it out, right? But beautifully engineered and split apart so that painting it is a lot easier, and then you can also ship it with a lot less damage. So best Weapon X by far ever made. Is it one of the best Wolverines? Okay, now that, you gotta take a step back. Without exaggeration, there's gotta be, what do you think, 100, 200 unique Wolverine statues, licensed companies, customs, Wolverine versus Ninja, Wolverine with X-23, Wolverine with Domino, Wolverine by himself, Wolverine in the brown costume, the yellow costume. So there's so many out there, but I think this has got to be top 5, top 5 Wolverine statues of all time. I'll tell you again, I've seen Wolverine versus Wendigo in person. I visited a local dealer, a friend of mine, Todd Johnson. He and I had done a little bit of business and pre-orders with him. He's a great guy. Spec Fiction is the shop that he runs in Orange County. And if you have a chance to do business with him, absolutely do. He's very trustworthy, very customer oriented. But I went to visit him, and he, was one of the lucky few, the chosen ones, right? One of the chosen ones. He actually had a Wendigo, and on display, I got to see it in person. Definitely one of the best statues I've ever seen. Definitely one of the best Wolverines I've ever seen. But I mean, 9,000, 8,000, 6,000. I mean, again, I don't think it's worth that. And when I look at the anatomy, when I look at just everything in general, that Wolverine was standing on a very huge Wendigo. And while the Wendigo is cool, the Wendigo as a base is a very, awesome concept. But, it's not like the best Wendigo ever done. I think that Wolverine with its power and the arms flexed and screaming is one of the best poses I've ever seen. But I don't think it's necessarily any better than this. I mean, this thing to me has the same type of effect, has the same type of power, and the snow kind of puts it over the top as well, And so I think it compares favorably to the King right now. If you want to talk about value, I think, personal taste, of course, is subjective. Art is subjective. But if you want to go by monetary value, the Wendigo piece is the most valuable. It is the most sought after just by that metric, that objective metric, how many people are willing to spend how much crazy money on obtaining it. It's the King. But I think this stacks up very favorably to that. I like this actually better than the Wendigo piece myself. If you were to tell me, would you trade this piece for Wolverine versus Wendigo, all money considerations aside, I would have a hard time doing that. I probably would not do that. This is definitely, by that metric, one of my top statues I ever own in my collection. So there you have that. I hope I've, kind of talked enough about just every little detail of the piece, shown you all of the different effects. That's the crazy thing. He actually took the time to paint like a melted snow. So it's not just like a huge clump of snow. He changes the texture, he changes the amount, he changes the, the state where it's partially melted. It's just remarkable when you look at all of this. And then of course, all of the wonderful little details of the metal, all that stuff. Again, in my opinion, and hopefully after showcasing this to you in detail with my video, that this is definitely, in my opinion, the best paint job I've ever seen of this kit. I really, really love the effects. Okay, so now let's talk about the heads. So, there's a head right here. Also beautifully done. So this is And look at this. So this is all that hair flowing out. And then he had to think to himself, well, what would it look like, again, with the snow, sprinkling through a blizzard? Look at the paint job on the teeth, on the tongue. Look at the eyes, backing up. So this is him screaming. Here's again the hair, right? All of that. So this is screaming Wolverine. And I'm gonna cut after all of this and put the head on so you can see it on the statue. And then this is the other head, which is of course the one that's not screaming. Look at that. You see the veining again, just ice and cold everywhere. It just makes you feel cold just looking at it. Again, just beautifully textured, where there's some parts that are very heavy clumps, but the other parts that are partially melted. And again, you just get the feeling that this guy is going through a blizzard, a blizzard storm, a snowstorm. So I kind of love the way the eyes are painted. You can see the color there, okay? Yeah, so again, beautifully done. Every single head with the snow effects. I'm gonna put this side by side. So, what can I say? All right, so I'm gonna stop the video and then I'm gonna cut, and then when we cut, we're gonna see what the different heads look like. All right, see you after the cut. Okay, welcome back. So, so here's unmasked Weapon X without the helmet. This is what he looks like off of the body. By the way, that magnet was crazy hard to get off. I mean, I had to really yank it off. It was crazy. And this is definitely rare earth level magnets we used. So you definitely feel like it's very, very sturdy. Take a look. Again, invisible seam line. So this is what he looks like. The windswept hair. So, and of course, you take off some of the cables here. Those cables attach to the back of the helmet. Without the helmet, there's no need to have it there. And it's also cunningly designed so that you don't feel like there's something missing. For instance, there's not an obvious hole or anything like that. So here you can kind of see a little bit of the back anatomy. Look, he even has ice accumulating there. So genius, look at the ice on the undersurface. You couldn't see that with the Weapon X helmet, but you can see that he was so detailed. He even put ice, accumulating, drifting on the side of the backpack that's facing the back there. So here we go. So that's an awesome face, awesome portrait, unmasked. I don't think this is that inferior to the mask one, honestly. I would display it with the mask most of the time just because that's what you think of when you think of Weapon X. But this is an amazing piece as well to showcase. So now I think this is a little bit less magnetized than the other one. I should be able to do it with one hand. Very good. So let's put that aside and let's put this bad boy on right here. So let's put this on here. It should go right on, and it does. Okay. So here he is, not screaming. The seam line here is a little bit more visible. Oh, there you go. That's because I didn't put it on right. Okay, so now it's all the way in. So take a look. Again, I'm gonna rotate him. So this is what he looks like without the scream. This is what he looks like with the scream and screaming with a Weapon X helmet on. Yeah, there's no weak portraits. All the portraits are strong, well detailed, beautifully painted. Again, look at the snow effects on the hair. I think the unhelmeted one also gives you great effect of the kind of the windswept hair, the snow caked on it. So this is just beautiful. All right, so I've shown you, all three portraits on the body. I mean, what more can I say? It's one of the best statues I own. I paid a pretty penny for this on the secondary market, but you know, almost, it's like the statue god smiled on me and Sergio. You know, he was a great seller. It came in through parcel post, local post, if you can believe it or not. You know, minimally insured, just because you can't buy, you know, thousands of dollars of insurance through local post and through, you know, Carissimo. In the past, Carissimo in France has jacked me up pretty well on a couple of purchases many years ago. They're not the most careful carrier in the world, but you know, they did right. They came through, went to the LA Customs, came to me less than 10 days and no damage. And again, you know, Grail is overused in the hobby, but this is the definition of a Grail piece. So over the moon, excited by this. So happy to have this in my collection. A big thank you again to Sergio for giving me the privilege of buying it from him. And he's definitely going to a worthy home who's going to appreciate him, appreciate this magnificent piece. And of course, you gotta shout out to the creators, to the unnamed who actually came up with this idea in the first place, and to the art direction, the producer of this piece, and then of course the sculptor Alejandro Perreira Ezcurra and the painter Pont, based in France. Just overall magnificent work. Okay, so that's it. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review of the Wolverine Chronicles Phase 1 Weapon X statue, custom from beginning to end. And until next time, do take care. Bye-bye.